Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. This is Mary Satoli with the Follow Your Bliss Foundation. And boy, have I got a story for you. I've always got stories, don't I? It's like it's an amazing life. Anyway, as you all know, I think the last video I put up might have been around October sometime. So I've been away for a while, and it has been one crazy winter and holiday season. But I have a lot of really great information that hopefully will be of value to some of you, and a lot of you who are still withdrawing or who are still looking for answers. I can tell you that it's not an easy path, and especially once you're diagnosed with cancer, because the treatments suck and everything is amplified. So I'm going to start this from the beginning because there's a few things that have happened during and before this whole thing sort of happened to me, and I think there are some valuable parts of it, both for people withdrawing from benzos and people who have cancer, or people who have friends and family members that are going through cancer treatments. So hanging with me if I get long-winded today. I'm trying to catch up with a lot of things, and I apologize to those of you who've contacted me either by email or phone and wanted information, and I haven't been able to talk because I am still at the tail end of my radiation treatment with this tumor, and I am kind of zonked a lot of days, and everybody's asking questions, and I just wanted to tell this story once and not have to do it again. So anyway, after my last video in December, my sister came down from Wisconsin to try to help me out because I was having a lot of bleeding. For those of you who didn't see my last video, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer in October, and then the next day denied my VA benefits. So it has been a pretty sucky holiday season in the respect that I'm still in my appeal with the VA. That doesn't look like it's going to happen for another 3 to 9 months, probably longer. I don't know. So I've tried getting some things started while I've been doing treatment that I can do from home, because I have to have something that I can make some money while I'm managing my life through all of this. So anyway, my sister came down and relocated to Arizona and helped me get to some appointments so that I could find out what was going on. And it's a complicated process, because even with SSDI, which is far better than VA health insurance, because they can at least get referrals through for oncologists within 24 hours. But the problem with cervical cancer is that it has this very high specialty field of GYN oncologists, and there's only like 9 in the entire Phoenix area. So it takes like 2 months to even get an appointment to get in to see one. So I'm, like in there, and around Thanksgiving I get the referral, but I couldn't get an appointment with this woman until like the first week of January. I think is when I finally saw her in her office. I saw her in the hospital a lot of times, actually, her and a couple of other doctors in the network. So anyway, backtrack a little bit here. My sister happened to come across an alternative product called IB1. Now, I am not making a statement that this is a cure for cancer. I'm not making any medical advice. I think you should still go see a doctor, because in my case, I would have bled to death had I not. But I do think there is a lot of validity behind this product. I know that a lot of people are online making all kinds of cures for cancer and all kinds of diseases, but this definitely seems to have some merit to it, and I'll get on to that in one moment. How we found out about it was through a friend of my sister's, and the guy making the product is up in Las Vegas. and he has a company called Nature's Grace. And this product is for sale on my nonprofit website. I'll be leaving a link below, along with some other things that I've got going at the moment to raise money for the nonprofit and keep a roof over my head, because I absolutely have barely enough money to pay another month's rent that a friend gave me, and enough to launch this project along with a TV station that I was introduced to just recently up in Sedona, which is going to take me a while to get started. So my friends, I would not be afloat if it weren't for them, and I want to give them a big shout out for all the support they've given me during my treatment, and just grateful. I'm really blessed. So we got the product, and because I couldn't get in to see this doctor, I decided to go ahead, and I was doing a vegan diet. I was doing everything that I could in the way of oral vitamin C, what money that I could scrape together for some IV vitamin C treatments, and some other things that I'd researched, like turkey tail mushrooms. So I started taking this product, and after the first day I started hemorrhaging worse, because the product actually started breaking up the tumor. But unfortunately, the tumor at that point was too big to break down, I think, with the product alone. If I had gotten started on it sooner, I may have been able to do it without the radiation treatment. I was a bit of a skeptic at first, as a lot of people are with these things, because you don't really know. This stuff is still in its research stages. They're trying to get it pushed through the FDA, that sort of thing. But the guy who is making it and developing it, his brother, who lives in Australia, I've talked to numerous times since I've been on the product, which is almost 2 months now. He was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer 8 years ago and sent home to die, because there was literally no treatment that could save him. And he was put on this product, and it took him 6 to 9 months to completely cure the cancer, and he did nothing else. And I've talked to him. I'm convinced enough from the other statements that this company has that this is a viable product, not only for cancer, but for opioid treatments and possibly benzo recovery. So I'm here to suggest, not advise, that this could be a possible support to your nervous system. I think it's the reason that I've gotten through so far 5 weeks of radiation treatment 5 days a week with as few symptoms as that I have had. I mean, I'm having some, but not as bad as what I hear from other people. I mean, just real minor things. So I need to back up a minute because I get sidetracked. So much has happened. So anyway, I was not able to get in to see this oncologist, so the bleeding got worse and worse, and then my naturopath recommended that I go to the ER and have my hemoglobin checked. Well, one of the things this product does is it helps support hemoglobin. And it was interesting because I had lost a lot of blood over that weekend before Christmas Eve, which was, actually I started taking it the day before my birthday, which was December 21st, my birthday, and I took it December 20th was the first day, so almost 2 months on it. And we went over to Mayo Clinic, and the first time they tested my hemoglobin, it was low. It was at about 11, which is not critically low, but then they tested it again a couple hours later just to make sure, and it actually gone up almost a point. So there may or may not be something to the hemoglobin factor, but I had critically low blood levels, but had hemorrhaged a lot between Christmas Eve and about a week after New Year's. So we had to go back in, I think it was a day or two after Christmas, and because I just kept bleeding and bleeding, and it kept getting worse and worse, and I was passing gigantic clots. And I finally, even coming back with an 8-something hemoglobin, and my sister begged the doctor to do a pelvic exam, because everybody was afraid to do a pelvic exam, because every time somebody would go in, the bleeding and the hemorrhaging would get worse. So I I finally ended up, you know, forcing them and refusing to go home without getting at least a unit of blood, which they finally did. And then they sent me home that night. But then the problem is because I couldn't get in to see the oncologist, then I was back into the ER New Year's Eve. Now, I spent my birthday, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, and New Year's night in the hospital. So I hit about all the holidays. It was really a fun ride. So then I hemorrhaged out again, and I kept calling the doctors on call at the oncologist's office, and they said, well, she's booked, there's no way you can get in, but if you go out to this hospital, you can be seen by one of the oncologists. And I finally got a really nice doctor that actually was a partner of the one woman that I had an appointment to see in January. And he said, go over to Thunderbird Hospital. I will give you my personal cell phone number so they can call me. And I am insisting they admit you to the hospital with the amount of bleeding you're having and give you 2 units of blood. And so I packed my stuff. I called the ambulance because I could not drive. I had towels. It looked like a mass murder had happened in this place. There was blood from the shower stall over the toilet. And I'm sorry to get so graphic because some of you guys probably aren't going to want to hear the details. But I'm here to tell you that I am a living miracle, because I should be dead by now for about the 14th time since benzo withdrawal and the head traumas and now cancer. So anything's possible, and at 62 I feel like a walking miracle, literally. So fast forward, I spent 2 days in the hospital. They got my hemoglobin way back up with 2 units of blood this time. And still, I finally got to see the oncologist that I had the appointment with, and she said because I had stage 1 cancer. It wasn't that's the big problem. It hadn't spread, but it was a gigantic tumor. It was over 6 centimeters, and they will not do surgery on anything that's over 4 centimeters because you can obviously hemorrhage the way that I've already been going through. So she said the only option was to do radiation and chemo to shrink the tumor. Well, chemo was out of the question for me. I was trying to do this vegan diet and do as much as I possibly could with as little as I had to do, but it looked like I was running out of options at that point. So I agreed to the radiation, and actually the oncologists were pretty cool. They did not, they didn't try to convince me to do anything. They were really nice. I was surprised because I thought that I would get just this whole fear schmear, from everybody that I had listened to on YouTube that have had cancer, and just it's been an interesting experience because I learned a lot, and I'm hoping that this story and this product and my recipe book, which I'm going to get into in a minute, is going to be of value to a lot of people, including all of you other people coming off the benzos and who might have friends and family members, like I said, that have cancer. Okay, so I don't have an appointment with this oncologist till the 8th, so she makes sure that I get the transfusion. They send me home, and of course I continue to hemorrhage because this IP1 is breaking up the tumor, and that's what happens. That's the only way for it to break down. It's cutting off its blood supply because it's fed on blood. But I had this rare sort of tumor that they didn't know that I had because nobody could even look at it. All they could see it was the CT scan and the MRI and see this big mass that was on my cervix. That was it. That's all they could tell. So no one could actually look at it till they got the bleeding slowed down, which was actually just a couple weeks ago. So it's been a long winter. We are happy to see the sunshine here in February today, and it's still a little cold here, but we're coming out into the spring with some real hopeful stuff. So then I believe it was one more time, the oncologist got me scheduled to see the radiologist the next day that I got out of the hospital, day after New Year's, and the hospital wasn't going to even release me after all the stuff that had happened and all the transfusions I'd already had without an appointment with the radiologist, a stat appointment. So they got me in the next day. they were amazing. They got my insurance pushed through in a day to get the mapping done, which was on a Friday, and they were actually able to start my radiation treatment on the following Tuesday, which would have been, I think, either the day, it was the day before, I think, that I saw the oncologist outpatient outside of the hospital for the first time in her office. So I started the radiation the following Tuesday, and nothing to speak of the first couple weeks, but a lot of people don't tend to have symptoms until the radiation sort of builds up in their system, which is kind of what happened with me. But the vegan diet and the fact that I've taken pretty good care of myself, and all the supplements and things that I was doing with my naturopath really seemed to help support my system, where I wasn't so exhausted that I couldn't do anything. And I've had some rough days with it, but overall I would have to say that it's been really a breeze considering what I had to deal with. So the second day of the radiation, of course, the radiation breaks up the tumor even more. So I started hemorrhaging again, even worse, the day that I saw the oncologist. So they sent me back to the ER again, another hospital, and they kept me overnight. But the doctors were really good because they knew that I needed to get to my radiology appointment. So they got 2 more units of blood in me, got my hemoglobin back way up, and I was able to get back into the radiation appointment the next day. And I'm happy to report now that we're coming up on, I think it's 5 weeks now since my last ER visit, and the bleeding is almost completely stopped. But here is the really amazing part of the story, is the first 3 weeks of radiation treatment for this type of cancer, they have a exterior treatment that they do over the pelvic area, which I did for 3 weeks so they could get the tumor shrunk down enough that they could stop the bleeding to go in and do a pelvic exam and do an internal treatment, which is where they hook up the radiation leads right onto the tumor and onto the cervix so they can shrink the tumors that way. And I didn't know this, but they can totally do it with just that. They said that I would have better results with chemo, but I'm not buying it. Not with what happened to me with the IB1. So the first internal treatment, which was the first pelvic exam, anybody that knew anything about these tumors had a chance to take a look at this tumor and see what it actually was. Well, she was like a little bit freaked out because she called me into her office the next day and said, look, I'm having a little bit of trouble with your health insurance because I have to replan your treatment because I've never seen anything like this tumor in my 20 years of treating these kinds of cancers. Generally, cervical cancer stays confined to the cervix area. In my case, I had grown a polyp, and for you guys who don't know what it is, they're little sort of growths that adhere to the cervix that can usually be removed right in a gynecologist office with just these tools, and you might have a spot or two of blood, but it's a piece of cake and they're benign. Well, in my case, and I'm almost certain now that it's because of the stress from the withdrawal from the benzos and the Lunesta and all the antibiotics that I had early in life, because it changes and alters your brain and your immune system. And then, I don't want to freak you guys out that are going through withdrawal thinking that you're going to get cancer after everything else, because I know how paranoid the drugs and the withdrawal makes you. That's not necessarily the case. I had a really stressful period of time. I came off 3 different GABAgenic drugs in a matter of 5 years. I moved a total of something like 8-9 times during that period of time, and I had no money. I was living on $751 disability. And I know there's a lot of a lot of you out there that do have really tough situations, and the stress is a killer. My oncologist said that is more than likely where this started, because I'd always eaten really healthy and I exercise and I've taken good care of myself, and some of it is just, your immune function doesn't work as well as you age, and you get shit. The older you get, you're bound to get something. So don't freak out. I'm actually here to give you some optimism with this, because I am so excited about this IB1 and my recipe book and what's happening in my life right now. So anyway, what happened with this tumor is that this polyp grew this stalk down from the middle of the entrance of my cervix, and it grew this mushroom-sized gigantic tumor that grew into the vagina. And there was a bunch of smaller tumors on the cervix, and they couldn't get to that with the first treatment. So she had to, the following week, decide to do an experiment with me, which she had never done before, which I just feel like a guinea pig for benzo withdrawal, for just all of it, you know. So I guess I'm the obvious candidate to have the nonprofit and sit here and talk to you about the experience of these horror stories that happen to people in life. But so anyway, I hope you guys got your popcorn sitting in front of you, because I still have a ways to go. So they went ahead, the first treatment, and they just did the radiation on the tumor itself so they could hopefully break it up enough that they could get to the tumors on the cervix. Well, she had decided that the following treatment, which was the second internal treatment, which was just about 4 or 5 days ago from today. So we haven't even been 2 weeks since that first one. And mind you, no one that knew anything about these kinds of tumors had ever seen this tumor up front and personal the way this doctor, she was the only one to actually see it with her eyes. And she was in disbelief. She didn't know how to treat it. So they opted to go in and they just put it on the tumor itself and hoped that it would shrink. And then the following week, she was planning on going up and removing the polyp, because the stalk was attached to this gigantic tumor, and hoping that the tumor would just come out with the polyp. Fun times. So I asked if I could get a formaldehyde jar for science and for the Guinness World Book of Records and take pictures, and they were all, I think, probably a little freaked out by my warped sense of humor. But anyway, that didn't need to happen, because the IB1 shrunk the tumor over 50% in 1 week. And if you could have seen the look on the doctor's face last Wednesday when I had the second procedure, she said, I got part of the polyp, but I think the rest of it's just going to shrink like the tumor on its own, because it's over 50% shrunk. And I'm like, well, is that common? She says, no, I've never seen this happen before. I'm an anomaly, folks. It's like too weird. So anyway, I'm not trying to sell anything here. Again, you can check it out for yourself. I'm happy to put you in touch with Tom at Nature's Grace. We'll be selling it on our website. I've got a link below, like I said. And so now I will be going in for my last week of radiation treatment this week. I'm having 2 more internal procedures, and I will probably keep you updated as to what happens with this next weekend, because, I mean, the bleeding has stopped since the last treatment. I'm relatively confident that this is going to be gone in just a matter of weeks, and I'm really grateful. It's been a rough run. So during this whole winter, as many of you know, I had been working on a lot of homemade recipes and I'm doing a lot of research, and so I put together an ebook, well, to distract myself from this whole bleeding thing, because it was pretty freaky and I was still losing a lot of blood, even though I've been anemic for, I go in for my next hemoglobin test tomorrow, which I think will finally be back in the normal range, but I've been running still anemic by a point or two, you know, not critical like I was, but I'm like way better. And this is the first chance that I've had to get on and tell anybody. And I know, Jeff, you text me, and I've gotten a couple of other emails and phone calls from even my best friends. I've written them letters that don't have internet and sent it to them and just said, I cannot go through this 100 times. It's just too exhausting. And I'm trying to make money from home because I have no income, and I mean 5 days a week of radiation treatment and running to labs and doctor's appointments, and it's been a zoo. And this weekend has been the first really calm, fun. I got the good news on Wednesday about the tumor, and then I finished my recipe book. It's called, ta-da, Mary's 2255 Easy Universal Nutrition Guide. And it's not a recipe book, it's a nutrition guide, because I have some videos in the ebook, and I've got a link below where you can access it for free through the blog on our nonprofit site, the Follow Your Bliss Foundation. And it is, you don't have to be vegan, vegetarian, keto, paleo, no-low. You don't have to be anything. The whole goal is to just get people off the white sugar, and you can eat sweets with monk fruit and stevia, which are no sugar calories, no glycemic index, 0. So the whole goal with this, and I think my diet's had a lot to do with the tumor shrinking too, is that you don't spike your blood sugar. Because I noticed even when I went vegan, I was eating way too many sweet potatoes, and it was spiking my glucose levels when I was in the hospital. And I kept thinking, why is my glucose going up to 121, 141? And then one of my friends says, I bet it's the sweet potatoes, because they've got a high glycemic index, and they've got a high sugar content for even a vegetable. So I found out that if you boil them, it lowers the glycemic index from like 94 to 45. I mean, incredibly. So and I was just sitting down eating a whole sweet potato with ginger and cinnamon, because I mean, they're so good. And I've been a sugarholic all my life, and that's where a lot of my health problems started. So I think the whole cancer thing is sugar-fed, stress-fed. And I got into doing Joe Dispenza meditations, which I'm going to put a link to his intro video below as well, because the meditations literally kept my cortisol levels down, because that's another factor with this whole withdrawal thing, is that the fear from the cortisol surges makes it worse. I know it's hard, I've been through it, but I keep telling people, you gotta ride the wave, and you gotta breathe through it, and the bad days just suck. And let me tell you, I've had enough in my life the last 2 decades, between these drugs and the head trauma and the loss of my businesses and now the cancer, that this is not an easy life sometimes. And I think we're all marketed to death to buy all this stuff that's going to keep us young and make us feel better from the outside in instead of the inside out. And it's an inside job. You've got to keep yourself happy. And all my projects, my movie screenplays, my children's ebook, which I'm back to work at now, and I'm getting really close. I've got a great editor working on it. The hundreds of songs that I've written for my screenplays, and my now new TV channel that I'm having in Sedona, out of Sedona, Arizona. I'll be doing it from home. But it's called World Rejuvenation TV, and we'll be featuring empowering music, recipe information. I'll be interviewing people with new health technology and products like the IB1 and like the Saracet brain wave stuff. So you guys can get a channel and a membership for as little as like $3 a month. So it's like a really cool thing. And if you buy a membership from me, then you get access to all these alternative stations that have similar types of content. You need to get away from network TV. It's a bunch of BS. They just want everybody in fear, and they want everybody to think that the world's going to blow up. And if you spent 2 hours doing something else to change the world and got away from the damn TV and just, did something simple like what I did with my nonprofit. I just spent time just helping other people. And if everybody did that, we'd be in a different world. We really would be in a different world. And these projects got me through some of the hardest times of my life. And it's because I love what I've done. I love my music, and I love creating things. And so my brochures for my recipe book will be ready, and I'm going to be passing those out. They'll be here Tuesday. I've got my business cards all ready to go for the TV station, and my intro, I just have to borrow a little bit of more money from some friends, unless you guys can donate on the recipe book, because it's really cool. It's got videos and pictures and all kinds of fun information, and all the recipes have low sugar, low glycemic index, really easy to make. You can store stuff in the freezer, because I'm like single, and during the week when it's wicked and I got to get out to all my treatments and stuff, I can pull my black bean enchiladas out of the freezer and a couple of low glycemic, low index chocolate chip, stevia sweetened chocolate chip cookies, and I've got meals for the day, and I don't have to cook. And it's healthy food. You guys need to be eating healthy food with benzo stuff. You need to keep your blood sugar because you need glucose for the brain, and you need the complex carbohydrates to keep your blood sugar even. Now my blood sugar, after going on this diet, just 4 days of it, it dropped down into the 90s, which is where it should be, between 80 and 100. So the proof is in the pudding, and I think that my getting through radiation this far with just kind of a flare-up of my rash and a few flare-ups of my electrical symptoms, which I already had from either the head trauma or the benzos. Who knows what it's from at this point. I mean, the jury's still out, but so many people that have come off these drugs have it. So I will have more information on the TV station when I have the links and the videos all and the channel all up and running. But right now the book is available at the nonprofit site at the link below, and so is the IB1, which I would highly recommend you giving it a try. I've seen and talked to people that have used it that seem to have pretty good results. Now, it's not an instant fix. Like in my case, I've been on it for 2 months, and we don't know how big that tumor was before she looked at it. So it's one of these things where, talking to Tom's brother and hearing his story about, he's 8 years cancer free, and they sent him home to die, and he's convinced that miracles happen, and so am I after what I've been through. I mean, I've lived to tell about this whole crazy thing, and I'm not going to stop here. My whole TV station in Sedona is going to be basically directed toward empowering people to get their inner self calm and grounded and centered through music and through healthy food and entertainment and good recipes. So check out the ebook. Like I said, it is free to take a look at. The password will be all there on the blog, and I just wanted to say hi and update everybody, and just tell you that anything's possible for those of you who are still really, really sick. And I'm living proof, and I want to tell this story to the world, and that's why I'm doing the TV channel, and I hope you guys will get a membership when I get that up. I'll probably have an update by next weekend or a couple weeks at the latest, because I'll have more news about the tumor, and I'll be done with my treatment by then. So then it's like a CT scan every 3 months, and if nothing returns, then after I think 2 years, it's 6 months, and then after 5 years, I'm considered cancer-free, according to Western medicine. But I already think that I've got this beat, and I'm really got a new lease, and I've got some grants I'm waiting on, hopefully, that are going to help me market my station. Some miraculous things. I'll have some stories about this on later YouTube channels about the synchronicities and stuff that have happened through this whole thing since going with the Joe Dispenza work, and I'm going to put up an introductory YouTube link to his stuff too, because I did send it to a couple people that I'm hoping are using it, but I haven't heard back from them, so I don't know. But I highly recommend, and I know it's not easy work to do, because if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it, but we're not going through an easy thing. Like, I don't think anybody's going through anything easy on this planet right now, whether it's benzo withdrawal or just anxiety in general. I think so many people have it, and I just think it's a sign of our times. We need to slow down, and we need to get in touch, and we need to spend some time helping each other, just interact. I mean, we're so cut off, and we just think that we're going to find the answers in some magic bullet, and there are things out there that help, but I think it's a holistic approach. You've got to do the inner work, the yoga, the meditation, the diet, all of it, and you'll get your life back. I'm doing it, and I've had 2 decades, and at 62 I'm finally feeling like things are turning around, and I want to share the story with you because I want to give you all some hope. So anyway, on that note, I wish you guys the best and in your recovery process, and I'm hoping that you'll, like I said, get a membership and go to the recipe book and take advantage of that free offer and donate if you can. It's well worth it. And we'll see you hopefully in a week or two. Okay? Bye now.